This is
And
there
we're
we go.
live! And we're live! Hello, and welcome to the first music podcast for theyoungfolks.com. I am Ryan Gibbs, and we'll be talking with a bunch of our music writers about the year in music for 2015. Joining me is site founder Gabrielle Bondi. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yes, you did. I was afraid you were going to do it the Australian way, and I would have to correct you.
We also have Joey Daniewicz. Say hi, Joey.
Hi. Howdy.
Jon Winkler.
Greetings, programs. How you doing?
Matt Rice.
Hi.
Whose sound is finally working. It was a bit of a fun mess trying to get his sound working. All right, so we're going to jump right into talking about our favorite albums of 2015. We can go around the horn or however you guys want to do it. So whoever wants to come in first can start.
Anybody else be my guest?
We should start with the people who don't have Kendrick Lamar.
That's gonna be tough for me because that's. Should we just? Does everybody have Kendrick Lamar at the top of their list?
Not me.
Not you. Okay, then what do you have as number one?
I have Carly Rae Jepsen's Emotion, unsurprisingly.
You are a very big Carly Rae fan. You've been saying that a lot.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
From the moment the first singles dropped off the record, I'm like, this is going to be a very big record, and it has not disappointed. It's a long record, but every song on that album is amazing, and I really hope that people remember this as one of the best pop records that's come out in the past decade. I'll probably go a bit more into it as soon as we get the elephant out of the room, which is Kendrick Lamar, which put out what is one of the most critically acclaimed albums
ever.
I think in Metacritic history, yeah.
I don't know if it's as acclaimed as Beautiful Dark was when it came out.
It's close, I think so, yeah.
Oh, Twisted Fantasies,
but that's not quite.
Yeah. I mean, I get, like, I only just heard Good Kid, Mad City maybe, like, a couple of months before To Pimp a Butterfly dropped, and I immediately thought, like, oh my god, this is great, but of course, any new album or a great new artist, okay, where's this from here? And then a couple months later, Kendrick drops To Pimp a Butterfly, and it's the album that I've listened to. I'm still finding like new things about it. Obviously it's my number one for the year. It's going to be interesting with the Grammys coming up, and he has an album of the year nomination, right?
Yeah. The album of the year nominations are, I think, Kendrick, Chris Stapleton,
Taylor Swift, and The
Taylor
Weeknd.
Swift, The Weeknd, and Alabama Shakes.
I can't believe Alabama Shakes got nominated. That's incredible. I'm so happy.
I saw that coming. I kind of thought that would be the token rock nominee this year.
Yeah, the token rock album.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think To Pimp a Butterfly, it's one of those things where it's the right album at the right time. Like, considering today's, racial climate and what's going on, there's no better. There are very few better examples of that, or at least musical expressions of that, than To Pimp a Butterfly.
I think Black and Run the Jewels 2 got the same kind of bump.
Yeah. Run the Jewels 2, yeah.
Joey, you wrote the review for The Butterfly for TYF. Has your opinion changed on the record since you wrote that review?
My opinion has changed a little bit insofar as I've been talking about it like it's my second favorite album of all time.
Behind
London Calling by The Clash.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice Gogo Bordello shirt, by the way.
Thank you. I almost wore my Run the Jewels.
That's going to be very confusing to the audience.
Yeah.
We only have the audio, yeah.
But I think what I want to say about To Pimp a Butterfly is I think around this album, and sort of similarly, one of the books of the year, Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates, people have sort of been talking about it like it's this quintessential statement of blackness, but I think that what people forget is that such a statement doesn't and can't really exist by definition, otherwise you're sort of marginalizing what that means. But I think what's so astonishing about the Pimp a Butterfly is just how much ground it covers thematically, because it's covering so many different sorts of black-dominated music stylistically. It's covering depression, self-hatred, in conflict over whether or not gang violence nullifies your problems with systematic oppression. It just goes so many different places. And, like, yeah, they have 80 minutes to do that.
Yeah.
It's just a good album. But it's still just absolutely awe-striking to me how much they go around in that span.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting to watch the critical acclaim for this record and then look at the radio charts and notice that none of the songs were getting played on hip-hop radio. Or pop radio.
All the singles bricked. Oh, my God.
I think King Kunta briefly appeared on the media-based hip-hop charts, but then it was just gone. It peaked at like number... Yeah.
I think All Right got some significant airplay. All Right is getting played a little bit. Just now, but you know.
I heard All Right on the radio once, and it was very exciting. I didn't hear any other Kendrick songs on the radio this year, other than All Right, one time.
And it's not like this record is not accessible. It is a very accessible record for the statements that it's making.
It's essentially a jazz record, just with someone scatting over it or just rapping over it.
Basically, it's very similar to, like, we're all talking at the same time.
Sorry.
The records that it reminds me the most of are stuff like the Diggable Planets, and
yes.
they had a top 40 hit, and that's, you know, and it's very interesting that hip hop radio and pop radio has stayed away from this record when it's the most talked about album of the year, and apart from Adele.
Yeah. Well, I think hip hop radio and pop radio, unless it has an annoying thumping bass line that can be filled through a turntable, it's not getting radio airplay. I think I remember driving along, and Adele's Hello already has a club remix, and it's on the pop radio, and it just makes me want to just punch my radio just straight on, because God forbid a song that doesn't have a dun club beat gets popular. Like, unbelievable.
Does have a drop?
So, aside from Pimp, does anyone else have anything else to say about Pimp Butterfly, particularly Matt and Gabby?
Well, one thing that I thought was interesting was when The Blacker the Berry came out, and it kind of had this there's this reaction where people were kind of like, with that final line, it's just kind of touchy. And on the album, in context, the song works so much better than when it was just released. Because there's all these themes of survivor's guilt, and like, basically on the album, the song works because it's just one of the many layers.
I think that it helps I become a better song, and I helps it become a better song.
Yeah, like when I first heard I on the album, I was like, I think it was just because I was expecting the single version, and when it was completely different, I was like kind of taken aback, but it's grown to be much better than the singles version, I think.
I kind of like the single version better, just because I just like the Isley Brothers samples. It's just me. But I'm not saying that the album version is bad. Yeah, the album version is really good, and like you, I was backed by the album version, so I think it was nice, and it works. It works really well with You and stuff like that. I think the best song on To Pimp a Butterfly is either You or How Much a Dollar Costs, because I love the narrative of how much a dollar costs.
Obama agrees with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I just like the narrative of that. That's such an interesting story to tell. Like, a homeless guy you're meeting in Africa eventually becomes, you find out he's God, right? Is it God or Jesus that he reveals himself to be? I forget which one, but God. I just think it's God, yeah. That's such an interesting narrative to tell, especially in modern hip-hop. I find that so fascinating. I think Kendrick Lamar is maybe the most fascinating person in hip-hop right now. Just the way how he comes up and he looks like he looks like the regular Compton rapper, but he's got such deep, interesting thoughts about it and can come up with this interesting way to tell stories. I really don't understand how this guy is not. I mean, he was on the cover of magazines when To Pimp a Butterfly dropped, but I find it so interesting. He's just not on everybody else's radar. I feel like he should be much bigger than he already is. But again, the pessimist in me says, well, maybe he shouldn't be, because then fame might get to him and something terrible might happen, but I don't know.
Well, he did get a #1 single this year off of a remix of Bad Blood, the worst song on 1989.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's kind of
any thoughts about Kendrick this year?
Yeah, he's at the top of my list for a lot of the same reasons you guys mentioned. It was just one of the most profound, musical experiences I've had this year from an album, and it's multi-layered, and even the first time I listened to it, I wasn't quite sure I loved it, but I knew it made me think and it made me feel something, which you really can't say for a lot of albums. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to reiterate a lot of what was said, but yeah, he's easily one of the best artists that we have right now, and we're super grateful to have him.
Yes, very grateful. Very true.
And what else is, if not in your complete list, but in your top 10 for albums this year? I don't want to get my whole list out because I don't know how long we're going to be going, but could you guys tell me a bit more about some of the other stuff that you're going to be putting high on at least your TYF list this year?
Disclosure's recent album, Car Call, that's my #2. Disclosure, I think, is the best thing to happen to EDM or dance music since this whole EDM revolution thing picked up. I think they're the best thing to happen to dance music since LCD Sound System or Daft Punk or the whole
Really?
DMA. Yeah, honest to God. I think those guys have got a great rhythm. They're more about atmosphere than just making people get their feet up off the ground. I love the vibes that they have. I thought Settle was maybe one of the, if not the best album of 2013. And I've been so excited to see what they do now. And I know a lot of people have been complaining, oh, it just sounds darker, and they're slowing everything down. And what's so wrong about that? I don't find anything wrong with that. A lot of their stuff reminds me of Basement Jaxx. I love the stuff that they did with Sam Smith. I love the stuff they did with Lorde, with Lion Babe. All that album, the new album, Caracol, I think it's flawless. I don't think there's a weak song on that album. And I always imagine what I say to people, and I said this in my review. I gave the album a 9 out of 10 on TYF. I said that a lot of times EDM and modern dance music, it's just meant to put you in a club and just shut you up and bang your head around. Disclosure, you can play that like at a house party, and if nothing is going on, if you're just sitting around with people, or you're trying to be with a girl and trying to get the mood going, I think put Disclosure on. I think it's great. It's great mood music. It's got great atmosphere. I got great rhythms. I'm consistently paying attention to Disclosure. I can't wait to see what they do in the future, and I hope they stick around for a long time. So if it wasn't for To Pimp a Butterfly, Caracol would be my #1 album of the year, hands down.
And I mentioned before that my #1 is not Butterfly, it's probably Rejection's Emotion. I have Pimp a Butterfly at #2, but the thing that really caught me about Emotion was that there is this wave in criticism that is occasionally negatively referred to as poptimism, even though the original coining of the term was a positive term.
Right.
And this is the record that, I saw a lot of people that didn't like pop music really get into, and for a bit of that, it's kind of a shame that it's kind of marginalizing this really excellent album. But at the same time, I totally understand. It's such an amazing album. I reviewed it for TYF. I gave it a 9.5 out of 10.
And talking about it people talked about Robin in 2010.
Robin or Annie or a whole slew of people. It's kind of a similar narrative. Yeah. But this is an album that a lot of people have been deservedly paying attention to. It's another album that wasn't played on the radio. The album actually kind of tanked. It underperformed.
Yeah, that was really sad. Yeah.
And every song on that album, front to back, including the bonus track, sounds like a hit single. And I mean,
recommend a deluxe edition to anybody listening to this podcast?
I hope they do, because there's a song on the deluxe edition of Emotion called "I Didn't Just Come Here to Dance," and it's the best cut copy song since Zonisco.
That's funny. I'm a huge Cut Copy fan.
And I mean, there's a bunch of like the songs that have gotten interest are the ones that she did with Rostam from Vampire Weekend and Devontae Hines, but there's all these other songs that are just as great. Run Away With Me is my #1 song of the year, and it's one of the best pop songs of the past decade. It is amazing. I also have Making the Most of the Night in my top 20. I have When I Needed You in my top 50. I have Your Type in my top 50. It's just that album just thoroughly is on my top 100 singles list this year. It's a really great record.
Yeah, that album really reminded me a lot of like a sort of a more upbeat Kylie Minogue record. I feel like it's I in my head I call it the best album Kylie Minogue never made or should have made, because I think she really deserved more credit here. But maybe Carly Rae Jepsen is Canada's Kylie Minogue. I don't know, someone who's way more famous in her home state or home country and not only known for one or two things here. So, but I think Emotion really stood out to me. I was amazed how upbeat that was, considering most pop albums today have to have like slowed down or kind of sad songs on them to get radio airplay.
As great as Call Me Maybe is, what I worry is happening, she's going to be another, quote, one-hit wonder, as much as I don't like using that term for her, because she technically does have other top 40 hits. But she's going to be one of those one-hit wonders that is dominated by this one song when they have this amazing career that followed that hit, like, say, Dexy's Midnight Runners or Diva or Warren Zevon. And I hope that's not what her legacy is just that one very good song. I hope that people remember Emotion 5 years, aside from just me and a bunch of music critics.
I bet in like 10 years or so they'll do like a think piece on it and say like why it was the best album nobody listened to in 2015 or something, or like the great lost pop album, because that's what it sounds like.
Even though it got fantastic reviews.
Yeah, it did.
Joe, you were saying something?
You know what album I really think they should do a think piece on? And I think this was really underrated, which is why Emotion being good didn't surprise me. Kiss!
Yeah!
Yes!
Carly Rae Jepsen's Kiss was awesome.
Call Me Maybe.
Adele City song.
Sing around it.
Call Me Maybe is my third favorite single of the decade, so I'm like, Emotion I love, but I'm gonna have to be the contrarian who says nothing on there is as good as that one single, just because I remember hearing it on the radio while working at a supermarket in 2012 and deciding it was the best song of the year right then and there. So, I mean, it's like, that song means a lot to me, means a lot to a lot of other people, and Emotion is, like, considering how great of an album Kiss was, Emotion is completely different, and it's better than it has any right to be, but
it's so good. I mean, I've been coming back to that record more than any other album this year, and, I mean, if you told me that at the beginning, you were like, nah, it's going to be Kendrick, it's going to be Churches, it's going to be something else. It's been consistently Kiss. I was just listening to that album front to back when I was on the bus. It's the album I keep coming back to. Anyone else have a #2 or a surprising?
Carly is like #4 on my list so far, and actually, you guys just reminded me that tickets for a concert went on sale today, and now they're sold out. That sucks. I just love. Fuck.
Bummer.
I mean, I think
but yeah, no, it's an amazing pop record, and I'm actually one of those people who hate Call Me Maybe. So I know, I hate it. I can't stand it. And I was like really resistant to listen to like I Really Like You and all that when it first came out, and then I listened to it and I'm like, God, this is in my head, okay. And then I listened to Emotion and I'm like, okay, this is good. I have to take back all the stuff I've ever said about Carly Rae Jepsen.
Was part of that my fault for writing like 7 or 8 articles on Carly Rae Jepsen?
Yeah, you like convinced me. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna see what he's talking about. So yeah, you're the reason why I gave it a chance again.
Yeah.
One reason that Emotion's probably a better album than Kiss is the fact that it doesn't have Owl City on it.
Yeah.
That guy can't catch a break. Poor bastard.
He doesn't deserve one.
No, he He's like swiped Postal Service's entire thing and got a #1 hit out of it. He deserves everything he gets.
The Postal Service with more Christianity.
Kinda. But yeah, Joey or Matt or John or Gabby, what is your #2 for this year? If all of you have.
My #2, I've been going back and forth between two of them. One of them is Teams is Keep Pray Thug, Himanshi Suri from Das Racist. It has a lot of really good stuff about him living as an Arab American, and you just listen to it for yourself, and it's powerful. But the other one is one that people probably have more opinions on, which is Grimes.
Mm.
Yeah.
I brought up earlier that the Grimes record seems to be the indie-safe version of Emotion, because, you know, Pitchfork already loves Grimes, Pitchfork loved Oblivion, and it kind of feels like, you know, if for the people that aren't comfortable liking a pop record like Carly Rae Jepsen, and I'm not talking about you, Joey, obviously, but there are some people that it seems like that's the record they're gravitating to because it's a Pitchfork-approved pop record. Do you kind of feel the same way about that, Joey? Like not you personally, but...
It's too weird of a pop-type record. I think that one of the songs is about Dracula, if Dracula was able to change his gender or something, and that's how she described Kill V Maine. And I'm like, what? I haven't looked into the lyrics that hard, but yeah, I think it's a different type of hooky record.
Matt, what's your #2?
The Paranoid Styles, Rock and Roll Just Can't Recall. It's, I basically, well, Robert Christgau reviewed their 2 EPs this year, and one of them's from 2013, and if it wouldn't be insane, I would put that in my top 10 too. Basically, they're just a really great indie group who, and their EP, the new one, started out, like, I didn't like it as much as the last one. It's not as in your face with its hookiness, but over time it revealed itself to be the best one, and I just love it. And my #3 is actually like almost like the Paranoid Style from a different era, like Dead Sarah, because the Paranoid Style ascribed to this sort of 90s indie aesthetic, whereas Dead Sarah are kind of all over the place. What I love about them is just on the album's Pleasure to Meet You, and some songs sound like very grungy. The first 2 songs on the album are like remind me of Soundgarden, but then they have songs like Mr. Mister, which sounds like Aerosmith's Last Child, only the best hard rock song of the 70s. So yeah, I love that album.
Gabby, we haven't heard much from you about other records. Is there any other albums that you'd like to highlight in your main bracket?
Hello from the other side. Probably the top. Yeah.
That was a good segue into that, Gabby.
Yeah. Adele. Yeah, right now she's second, but I'm kind of debating that still. Because I really liked it when I first listened to it, but then after listening to it for like 100 times, I'm kind of sick of it. So I'm still like wondering how I feel about it, even though I wrote the review. I wonder if I still feel that way, because I might not. But I don't know. I just like some of the stuff she kind of talks about in the album, especially being like 25 and being anxious about getting old, because that's something I feel all the time, even though it's kind of ridiculous, and she kind of mentions that in one of the songs. But yeah, I don't know. I like the album, and she has a beautiful voice. But I don't know if I like love it as much as I first did.
The thing that is the big thing about 25 this year is how much it's sold. It has the highest first week sales of all time, or at least since SoundScan was implemented into the Billboard charts. And I remember talking
3 million.
Yeah, I remember talking to a music critic friend of mine, and I was, kind of asking him before it came out, well, do you think it's going to make 1 million copies in a week, and he was not sure that would happen. And then, it kept crossing landmark after landmark that week, and now it's sitting at 5 million copies. And the only thing that it has to cross now is will it hit diamond and cross the 10 million threshold for Christmas?
Probably.
And the very interesting thing about this is that it's really returned to the discussion sales of compact discs, which haven't really been talked about in a very long time with a record. Probably the last time I've heard an album talked about on disc like this was when the Beatles released their music in 2009. And it's just interesting that it's just this single title, this one title, that has this cross appeal to all genres and people who like all genres of music, but is also kind of, a little, quote, safe. And I'm not meaning that as a positive or negative towards the record. This album that's just become this total juggernaut so fast, so quick, with one song on the radio.
Well, I think that album sold as much as it did. More, I mean, it's a great album, but more also because of the marketing for it. Because, remember, it's not a streaming service. You can only download it off of iTunes or Amazon, I'm sure, or buy the physical copy. And here's the thing about albums these days: a lot of artists, they, plan and market these albums like 5 to 8 months in advance. So because they have to release singles and stuff, but after all that time, the fever kind of dies down for that album, and people have already heard enough for it and have previewed it online and stuff. Adele, she announced the album, did press and interviews, and then put out the single. Within a month, maybe 2 months. So it's not I'm not surprised at all that it sold as much as it did, because she made it. She had everything quick, concise, and made 1 to 2 specific ways of getting the album. So I think her or her marketing team was very smart about putting this album out.
How quickly you forgot about Google Play?
Oh, Google Play.
Yeah, it's also on there. No people always forget about that one service. But Gabby?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, I think also the marketing kind of relied a lot on the phenomenon that was 21.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, and I mean, it just carried on that, and that's all it needed, really.
I feel awful because I haven't heard it.
The only person.
J'accuse!
He's a critic who talks a lot about the charts, and he talks a lot about the
Malampy.
effect.
Malampy, yeah.
The VC effect basically is when your biggest selling album was like, "For those about to rock, we salute you," which is not their most popular album.
No, it's not.
It sales because of Back in Black. So I think that 25, in a lot of ways, at least that first boost, I think was because of how big 21 was. So I agree with you.
Mm-hmm. The fact that Adele came back, that was a huge deal. Because she's been radio silent since Skyfall.
And to bring up the Chris Malampy article that you was talking about the AC/DC rule, it is kind of I'm not. It's too soon to figure out whether it's going to be a thing like, say, For Those About to Rock, or the Eagles' The Long Run, or Max's House, a record that falls after a big record and isn't as good or acclaimed, but just sold a bunch because of the last one. It's too early to say that with 25. We need to wait for the next single to come out, and then the next single after that. But I mean, who knows? I mean, there have been exceptions to this rule. I mean, Taylor Swift has consistently challenged that rule, as has a bunch of other artists. I mean, but it is this kind of thing that follows up a huge album like that for a band that just came out of nowhere, an artist that paid their dues and got a huge record. All right. Any other records that you guys would like to highlight, like albums that are esoterics on your list, or albums you haven't gotten to, like, say, Vince Staples or Courtney Barnett, or...
Yeah, I was wondering if somebody was going to mention one of those. It took me a long time to come around to the Courtney, but I finally really like it. And now that I'm seeing it kind of like in like the 7s and 8s of people's top 10 lists, now I feel kind of bad for it. You know, I think it might deserve better than that.
Because you're predicting Courtney Barnett to get number 2 in Passenger, weren't you?
I was predicting. Now I'm not so sure.
I really like that album. That's my number 3 this year. Courtney Barnett.
It's a really good album. It's a really good album, man.
The thing that really strikes me about Courtney Barnett is that she's a really, really funny, witty songwriter. She's an amazing guitar player, and her vocal style is really unique. And it's all these things that combine and makes that record really endearing. I think Depreston, which I had for months as my top single of the year, is a really well-written song and a really well-written guitar music song. You don't get a lot of, you know, that genre, that kind of indie type alternative genre has gotten a little staid recently, and I think that artists like her have been giving that genre a bit of a push into a more interesting direction. I'm really happy that she got a Best New Artist nomination for Grammys. But yeah, it's really interesting to see that record not do as well on the finalists. Hopefully, you know, it gets a bit more love before the Paz and Job ballots are announced.
I think that if, and I say this as a huge Slater-Kinney fan, by the way, but the new Slater-Kinney left me a little cold.
Me too, a little.
That's not high on my list.
Considering like the expectations, yeah, it's yeah. But Price Tag is probably the best concert opener ever. Like I saw them twice this year. I saw them twice this year, and they like I guess that they've been opening with Price Tags this entire tour, and it's such a great opener. Everyone knows it already right from the opening notes, and it's probably the best song on the album by far.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to use that as a transition to Best Concert of the Year?
I don't know if you want it to be.
Joe, you were saying something?
Oh, Matt had Bury Our Friends at number 2 last year, so I'm surprised that he's saying Price Tag is the best by far.
Yeah, I overrated it due to excitement. Like, it's like if Lou Reed was resurrected and released a new song.
Oh, God.
Then it'd be like, best song of the year, and then a year later I'd be like, no, fuck this song.
Before we move on, does anyone else have a record that they would like to talk about, like an esoteric that isn't going to be on anyone else's list but yours?
I'd like to talk about an album that's not on my top 10, but would be if I didn't care about consistency. Jason Derulo's Everything Is 4.
Right.
Jason was huge this year. I mean, what's the one that was the single?
Want to Want Me was like a huge single, and then
that was the song of the summer. That was huge.
But then he released 2 singles, both that I would argue are better, and neither of them has charted that high. And I think that what's happening is he's becoming more interesting, and people are running away because
that's what happened.
his song Cheyenne, he released that as the second single, and it's an amazing song. It's like Want to Want Me, but better.
Mm-hmm.
And it has gone nowhere. And then there's also songs that aren't singles yet that are just insane, like I'm Broke, which would be my single of the year if it were a single. It's his song with Stevie Wonder and Keith Urban, and it's kind of this R&B country blues mix it's just incredible. I'd love to hear it on the radio, but I doubt it will be. And yeah. But then there's songs like there's this K. Michelle duet that's really boring, and the closer isn't that great, and so, yeah.
Can I just mention the fact that there is a legendary Britpop band reuniting, and they made an album that didn't suck? Can we talk about Blur, The Magic Whip, and how great that was? Oh my God, I was so. Here's the thing, though. I listened to The Magic Whip, and I think it's more of a direct sequel to Damon's Everyday Robots album, which was still good. I really liked Everyday Robots. But I feel like The Magic Whip was more of a direct sequel to Everyday Robots, more than just a new Blur record. If it wasn't for Graham Coxon's guitar, that would have just... If he just labeled that another Damon Albarn solo album, I would have believed it. If it wasn't for Graham's guitar. But The Magic Whip was fantastic.
Graham is all over The Magic Whip more than
yes, he is.
any other Blur record. it really feels like a Blur record as opposed to a Damon Albarn record. I see where you're coming from, but to me at least, and speaking as someone who has named Blur one of their favorite bands of all time, and you know, I've kind of gone back to that album, and I like it a little less than I did when I first heard it, but it's still in my top 10. I still really love Lonesome Street and I Broadcast and Ong Ong, and
Yeah.
but it's really good to see how many reunion albums have come out this year, and most of them are really, really excellent.
Yeah.
In addition to Blur, Slater-Kinney put out a really good record. We were just talking about the Sonics put out their first album in 50 years, and it's really great. Who else came up with a great?
Would New Order count? Because I mean, Peter Hook just left, but they this is their first proper album in maybe I think 7 years. And Music Complete, it's very much like their '80s output. I really love Music Complete. I'm glad to have New Order back.
Music Complete. It was an okay album. It was definitely better than the two albums they put out after Republic.
Well, Get Ready is pretty good. Waiting for the Sirens Call was kind of but I think Get Ready is very underrated. Of course, their post-Republic output. I still get mad at people who think Republic is a bad record, because Republic has my favorite song of all time ever on it, which is Regret. Regret is my favorite song ever made. I love Regret, and I think Republic's a fantastic record. But, yeah, I agree with you that Waiting for the Sirens Call was subpar. And it's just nice to see them, go away from guitars and back to synths, and it still sounds great. I'm really glad New Order is still improving, because Peter Hook leaving that band, that should have been a death blow.
I think the thing that made that record as good as it was that Jillian Gilmer was back. And she was a really important part of their sound, and that was what was really missing.
Yeah.
But yeah. Does anyone else have an esoteric they'd like to talk about, something that they don't think is going to be on anyone else's list at all?
Joe, we could talk about Sophie.
I don't know if that's I don't know if that's gonna be on my list, but it's a really good album, man.
What album is this?
It's Product by Sophie.
It's a PC music album. I do not understand the PC music movement at all. I think Joey can probably, but that was...
I like reading articles about PC music. I mean, I like reading about them more than listening to them, honestly.
That's how I feel about it, too, yeah. It kind of strikes me, even though it's not particularly a similar thing, it kind of strikes me as the new vaporwave in terms of how it's kind of a thing to talk about now, PC music. And I don't know how long-lasting that stuff is going to be, but I know that the Sophie album is the one that a lot of people want to talk about from that entire movement.
Yep. Everybody should check it out. It's only 30 minutes.
And it's on like Bandcamp or something?
Yeah.
It's on Rhapsody, but weirdly enough, all of the songs are separated into their own individual singles, so you have to put it together yourself.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Gabby, do you have any other records you'd like to move on to songs after, 20 minutes of talking about albums?
I don't know. I mean, mine is like kind of a weird list that I'm not really happy with, but I have Leon LaHava's Blood on there, which I don't know if a lot of people would have. I just love her voice and her music. And the album necessarily isn't like a standout album, but to me, I just really enjoyed listening to it this year. So, yeah.
I have two albums that I don't think anyone else is going to put in their top 10. The first is Something So Personal by Makeshift Shelters. They're an emo band out of DC, and they broke up like 2 months after the album came out. And it's a really, really good like throwback emo pop punk album, and a lot of people should check that out on Bandcamp. It was put out by Broken World Media, and it's really, really great. And the other one is Split Figure by a band called Line and Circle. They remind me a lot of really early REM, and no one's talking about them. And I think that within a couple albums, they're going to be one of the biggest bands in the world, or at least in guitar music. And they're worth checking out.
That's a bold claim.
I'm going to stand by it. Hopefully they don't disappear like a lot of other bands I've predicted would be huge.
One thing I love about this year in music is how quotable it's been.
Yeah.
With songs like Trap Queen, like one album that I need to mention just for its quotability is Jasmine Sullivan's reality show. Like when I played that for my girlfriend, she spent a week like quoting lines from it. Take a bitch to dinner. I'm gonna ride this bitch till the wheels fall off. It's
Oh man.
it's just a really great R&B album. She actually released an album in her debut album in 2008. It was called Fearless, and it was the second best album called Fearless in 2008, but closer than you'd think.
Yeah. So the next part we're going to talk about is favorite concerts of 2015. Does anyone want to go first on that one?
Bob's Burgers Live.
Wait, what? Wait, they had a lot. What do you mean Bob's Burgers Live? What is that?
The cast and creator.
Oh, they did like a live read?
They do a stand-up performance for each cast member, and then they show a few clips from upcoming episodes. So,
That's great.
Yeah, I think that was more fun than any concert I've been to this year.
Oh my god! Oh, I would have loved to have gone to that. Yeah, I didn't go to any new concerts this year. All I did was, I saw old bands. Like a couple months ago, I saw Newfound Glory and Yellow Card. They were touring together. They were amazing. I'm not sure if the singer of Newfound Glory, I don't know if his vocals are holding up as well as they used to, but they had a lot of energy and it was really good. And I honestly think that the best band that was there was their opener, which was, has anybody ever heard of Tiger's Jaw? Anybody ever heard of them?
Kinda?
Tiger's Jaw. Yeah, they're new. They're a 5-piece format, more of an indie kind of feel. I thought they did a great job. Yeah, and the other concert I went to was Cartel and Hit the Lights, because Cartel's doing they did a 10-year anniversary tour of the whole album through. I thought that was great. I was singing along with the whole thing, but I'm too broke to afford to go to new artists to go see shows, so I didn't see a lot of new shows, which I'm kind of bummed about. But still, take what you can get.
There were.
Sorry.
You can go first.
Yeah, I didn't go to a lot of shows this year. I usually do. Especially when I was younger, I used to like go to a major concert like once a month at least. But this year, I saw two, I guess. One was an impromptu Star Wars orchestra concert at Comic-Con, if we count that. And
was John Williams there? Was he conducting?
No, he was the video feed thing, and then the San Diego Orchestra did the thing. So no, it wasn't that awesome. And the other one was Nick Jonas, and yeah, I was never a Jonas Brothers fan, believe it or not, and I am a big Nick Jonas fan, and the concert was good. He's a great performer. I just don't think he really embodies his new music very well live. I don't know. Yeah. I just thought he was kind of more on the timid side when he was performing, but otherwise it was solid.
Yeah, Joe Jonas's new band, the DNCE. I listened to their EP. They sound really good. So I would see them live. And yeah, Nick Jonas's solo stuff. It's growing on me, slowly growing on me. Yeah.
For me, the two concerts that kind of were the major parts of 2015 for me. The first one was Neutral Milk Hotel. I saw them on the reunion tour.
Oh, lucky you. Very nice.
For a lot of people, that would be their big concert of the year because Jeff Mangum, he sounds exactly the same as on In the Airplane Over the Sea. He is.
Oh, good.
It was a really great concert. I appreciated their no cell phone rule at that show because
they have those, yeah.
Yeah, it made that entire thing not hard to watch. Like I was in the by the stage, and it would have really sucked if that show, like my big memory of it, would have been 100 people holding their cell phones while they sang Holland 1945.
Yeah.
The other show was one I just saw a couple days ago. I saw Speedy Ortiz and Downtown Boys. Downtown Boys, who are a band from Providence, they're a um, far left political, confrontational feminist Latino punk band, and they are America's best live group. They were absolutely fantastic.
Oh, wow.
If they come through your neighborhood, you need to see them. They are absolutely amazing. I love Speedy Ortiz, but I'm going to remember that Downtown Boys show. They were just amazing.
One show that, well, a few shows that really stick out. I don't remember if I saw Tune Yards this year or last, but that was good. Slater-Kinney I saw twice. I traveled to Philadelphia to see them, which is like a 10-hour drive.
Oh, God.
And then they ended up playing in Detroit at the end of just a few days ago, and I went to that, and it's like an hour away. So, and then Low Cut Connie I saw in Detroit, and they're amazing. Joey went to one of their shows and ended up in a music video for it. I wasn't that lucky.
It's in the music. It's in the song that Obama put on his playlist.
Yeah, you wrote that for us for Newish Music Tuesday, didn't you?
You know.
But yeah, I thought that this was a really good year for concerts and for touring acts. The Providence area doesn't get a lot of really good bands because what happens is they'll make their Hartford date and they'll make a Boston date and we forget about Rhode Island. But I thought we got served by a bunch of really great bands this year, and I'm really happy that, Neutral Milk Hotel and Speedy Ortiz and all those other bands played at places like AS220 and Lupo's this year. Anyone else wants to bring up with this category before we move on?
Well, I mean, I didn't see this show live myself, but I saw the live stream of U2 in Paris, the thing that they did. I saw that, I think, last week. It's so interesting how they make every single stage show that they've done since the Pop Mart tour. They've always done shows where the stage was, like, at the center. They're always in the middle, and they always are, like, running around to get every single side. But yeah, the Paris show they did, it was very, very good, very moving. They brought out Eagles of Death Metal, which was pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, when they were singing, what was it? I think it was With or Without You. When that song came on, like they were like flying. They were like hovering off the stage. It's amazing. Like people can say so much about them, and I'm not a big fan of Songs of Innocence, but that when they play on stage, they go in it, and it's still, ever since like I first got into them, I've wanted to see them live. So yeah, that I don't know if that counts, but so
I think that one of the most moving music moments of the year is that show at the end when they brought out Eagles of Death Metal, and Jesse Hughes just comes alive on stage when they sing "I Love You All the Time." Like after what that band has been through this year, with their show being attacked during the Paris terrorist attacks and 89 of their fans being killed. I think that just seeing them play live again and Jesse being Jesse again was really important to see. During that Vice interview that Jesse and Josh Homme did, it was really weird to see, this guy who's just so flamboyant and so brash just sound completely obliterated and shaken like he was. And to see him just come back alive was really amazing to see.
Of all the bands for something like that to happen to, you would have never expected it to be at a Eagles of Death Metal show, because they make like joke rock, like they're essentially like their name, their existence is like a parody of something. So for something that tragic to happen to them, that's really shocking, and I'm amazed that they're already back and doing stuff so quickly. That's a real miracle for them.
Yeah. I remember a bit of a journalism side note. I remember watching the coverage of the Paris attacks, and I was watching on MSNBC for some bizarre reason, and Ryan Williams just kept going on tangents about how Eagles of Death Metal have a member of Queens of the Stone Age in them, and they were just on Comedy Bang, and I'm like, why are you bringing this up through this really like awful thing that's happened? You're reading from the band's Wikipedia page. And
I think when I first heard about it, I read about it on Consequence of Sound, because the first report to break from that whole incident was the Eagles of Death Metal show. So I think when Brian Williams was doing that, he was just going off of talking about the band with such little information that they had.
But it's still really weird that, like, everything that he's gone through this year, he's now basically reading off a Wikipedia page on live television.
Yeah, Brian Williams has had a bit of a rocky year, to say the least. But
And,
yeah.
But yeah, what else do we have next? We skipped right over songs. Does anyone want to highlight some songs before I go into, or we go into our reading down our top tens?
I guess I'll be that annoying guy to talk about Hotline Bling and how that may be the best and most surprisingly hit song that Drake put out. Because like I said before, Drake put out Hotline Bling through his OVO radio show, which I listen to on Apple Music sometimes. It's very good. But he put it out amongst that collection of songs that was going on about the Meek Mill diss. And I was saying, like, everyone's talking about Back to Back or Charged Up and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, he's got this other song called Hotline Bling, and that's pretty good too. And then they're like, yeah, we're talking about Meek Mill. And then, 3 months later, it's, it's the meme song of the country. And so, but yeah, I think it was it's interesting. I'm surprised people are still ignoring are still questioning whether or not it's a remix of the Cha-Cha song that came out earlier. But no, Hotline Bling is if it wasn't for Uptown Funk still being a hit this year, I would put Hotline Bling as maybe my favorite song of the year. I just really like it. It's definitely the most Drake-esque song that he's ever put out.
I like the video more than the song. The video actually made me like the song. Truthfully, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like Hotline Bling.
That's fine. That's why I said I'll be that annoying guy to say that and be the one to say I like Hotline Bling because I do like it.
Trap Queen.
Trap Queen's amazing.
Trap Queen,
Yeah.
See, I never caught on with Fetty Wap. The only song I like by him is My Way, and I only like the remix because Drake's on it. I don't know why, but I only like My Way.
I don't like the Fetty Wap song either.
MC Light, like a couple of months ago, said Fetty Wap is the most feminist rapper working today, and like you can hear it in that song. Like it's just I love it, and it's weird because I first heard it because the Singles Jukebox reviewed it, and it got a high rating. So I was like, oh, I'll listen to this, and then I listened to it. I was like, huh, this is interesting. I don't know if it's really that great. And then suddenly I was like, wait, this is a hit? I had no idea. And, like, it's such an odd hit. It's just a new artist who got huge from this one song. And now it's, I think, like Carly Rae, even though has other hits, he'll probably be remembered as a one-hit wonder. But even if he is, then that's an amazing hit to have.
I just read online that he and his girlfriend, they're expecting a baby. Yeah, so maybe fatherhood will be on his next album. I don't know.
He'll be cooking pies with his baby.
Hey!
Here's the thing with the Fetty Wap thing is that his voice for a singing rapper is just so bizarre.
It's so weird.
It
sounds like he's on the verge of crying every time he sings.
I think I compared him once to Kevin Rowland of Dexy's Midnight Runners, and then again to Matty Healy of the 1975. Because there are no other rappers I can think of that sound like him at all. It's mostly just the dude from Dexy's and the 1975.
Yeah, I agree with that. I can definitely see that. Yeah.
Some of the songs that I want to talk about, I really want to talk about Sunday Candy by Donnie Huff and Chance the Rapper. That was one of the most interesting, positive songs I've heard all year. It's a really wonderful song, and I appreciate that Chance is this musician that releases all of his stuff online for free. And you can go on iTunes right now and download for free one of the best songs of the year.
Yeah, on iTunes you can download it for free, of all the places.
Yeah.
Apple isn't totally on this.
Anyone else? I know Matt really loves. In fact, I think Sunday Candy is the only song that Matt, Joey, and I all have in our top 10s.
Mhm. Yeah, that song like took a while to grow on me, but like especially on Surf, which is an oddly like unpoppy album. It's very based around all these like different sounds, and it takes a long time for you to absorb the actual hooks and stuff. Sunday Candy is like the one legit pop song on the album. It could be a hit if there were fairness in the universe. But,
Fairness in the universe.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Surf took a while to grow on me, but I think it's actually going to be top 10.
I felt bad that we didn't talk about Surf when we were talking about albums, because I was like, you just bring that up, like, that's the one I wanted to talk about, because it's such an odd left field kind of record, but it's so, I instantly got along with it. I loved it from the first listen, so, but I forgot about it so quickly. I felt really bad about that.
But yeah, Vince Staples was the same way for me. I listened to it and really liked it, and then I forgot about it, and I re-listened to it one time, and I need to go back again. It's like one that I've been ignoring throughout the entire year, and I really need to actually give it a good listen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there are a couple other interesting things that are in a lot of other of the singles lists. I know I gave a lot of love to this band called American Wrestlers. They're a Scottish musician who currently lives in Missouri, and they put out this song called I Can Do No Wrong, and it sounds a lot like Phoenix. And I think that's a song that's going to factor really heavily into my year-end list. It's a really... It's the kind of song that you would hear on the radio 5 years ago, but absolutely not now. Does anyone else have an esoteric to talk about with the singles before we wrap this part up?
Thomas Rhett's Crash and Burn. Crash and Burn is like the best American country song I've heard this decade. I said best country song, but I immediately got called out because Quarterback came out last year, and that is one of the greatest songs of all time. So, but Crash and Burn is close, and it's not nearly as interesting on a social and lyrical level as Quarterback, but it's just a really great R&B type country song. It has these background grunts that are very similar to Sam Cooke's Chain Gang, and it's just really great.
I know that Worth It by Fifth Harmony was the hit song, but I think Boss should have been a bigger hit song. Because didn't the Fifth Harmony album, did it come out this year or last year?
Came out this year. Boss was last year, though.
Yeah, okay, but I would count Boss, because I feel like Boss is such, like, there's so many, like, female empowering pop songs this year, which is great, but I think out of all of them, I think Boss was the best one. Or just Boss and Worth It, because those girls in Fifth Harmony, they're so boastful and confident and just in your face. Like, they sound like they could walk up to you and, like, just, like, kick you in the face and you would still be totally fine with it, because at least they approached you. There's so much confidence in those girls. I want to see more Fifth Harmony. I think they're really a standout group, considering they're basically the female One Direction for America, but they really stood out to me. Also, the Shawn Mendes song Stitches, I don't really know why I like. I think it's because it's a discount Ed Sheeran song, and it takes out all of the annoying complexities that make Ed Sheeran sometimes annoying. I don't know why, it caught on to me. So those are
We'll get the Stitches with me in a bit when we get to
worst
song of the year for me. Joey and Gabby, we haven't heard much from you in singles. Is there an esoteric or something you'd like to highlight?
This is like a weird choice, but I really like What Do You Mean by Justin Bieber.
That is
not a weird choice.
Not a weird choice at all.
Not weird at all.
Okay, that, and I really like Sorry too. Is that it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
What Do You Mean has topped a lot of best of lists this year. I think Spin put it on their top list.
Of all places, it tops Spin's list.
Not as surprising as you think it is.
Yeah, Spin's pretty pop centric. but yeah, what do you mean? I do not usually get worked up about songs I don't like. I get worked up about songs that disappoint me, and that's why I have not been able to shut up about What Do You Mean? Because it is probably one of the best sounding songs I've heard all year, and then the lyrics are just, they bother me a lot.
That's why it's not factoring in as high on my list as any other thing. It has this really good, it's a good sounding song. It reminds me a lot of Clean Bandit. And then the lyrics are a demerit, in my opinion.
And like I looked up an instrumental version because I was like, ooh, maybe I'll like it better if it cuts out the lyrics. But such a big part about why that song works is because of the melody and how like the lyric video is like these skateboarders and they're like skating and I think that's fitting because the way that Bieber sings over that instrumental, it's kind of like he's like gliding over the melody. So I like even an instrumental version doesn't fix things for me.
Yeah, it's not it misses my top 50 completely. I mean, I want to like that song more than I do because I like out of all the EDMs I really love deep house and tropical house and stuff like that. And then the lyrics are just not are not a thing that I really particularly am happy with.
The lyrics are just him apologizing and just trying to get back in Selena Gomez's pants. That's all it is.
I think of all people, I think of all people, Todd in the Shadows had a really good critique of that song on his YouTube page.
And of Stitches, yes.
I don't give a lot of, but I'm very interested to see where that comes into the picture because that's the one that a lot of people watch. And
best produced pop, yeah.
But yeah, before we wrap it up, I would also like to give a bit of love to this band called Stealing Sheep. I really like their song "Not Real." It reminds me a lot of stuff like Broadcast and 80s freestyle, and it kind of matches into my love for Carly Rae Jepsen in that song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But all right, so I think if everyone's okay with it, can we move on to worst songs and music of the year?
Wait, okay, I'm sorry. I keep cutting everybody off. I have to talk about this. Has anybody ever heard of Tuxedo?
No.
No.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
It's I really like Tuxedo. Like I just discovered them this year. They sound like the best group of the best sound that 80s funk never made. But I love how they all sound like Zapp songs or old songs from the Atomic Funk collection. I love So Good, the singles that they had, So Good and Do It. I love those songs. They've got a great groove to it. I think they should have been ginormous hits, especially since Uptown Funk became a huge hit. But I have to get Tuxedo out of there. That album they put together is going to be on my album list. But Tuxedo, I think, is a band that should be a lot bigger than just, Mayer Hawthorne's side project. I think they should be a big, big deal. So I just had to geek out about Tuxedo for a second because I almost forgot about that because I forgot how much I love them this year. I love Tuxedo. I love those guys.
Anyone else got a last minute before we move on to the not as good stuff? I don't think we do. All right. So what looks like it's going to be the last thing we talk about is worst music of the year. Does anyone want to start with that before I go in on Halsey and Shawn Mendes?
Fall Out Boy's Centuries is my least favorite song of the year.
What is it?
Fall Out Boy's Centuries.
I was so disappointed with that album.
Yeah, that was...
Yeah. I love Uma Thurman. I think Uma Thurman is... Well, it might make my top 25 singles of the year. I love the sample. I think that the vocals are great, but Centuries is like probably the worst vocal performance I've heard this decade. It's like
wow.
It's like toxic in my eardrums. It's like ugh.
I think a lot of the problem with that song is that J.R. Rodham is not a good match for a rock band. The production of that song is so bad, and I worry at times with American Beauty, American Psycho that Fall Out Boy are going to go the way of Maroon 5, and we won't be hearing the instrumental performances of what is a really good rock band. You hear a lot of Patrick Stump, you hear Pete Wentz's words, and you don't hear their music anymore on American TV, American Psycho. All the guitar on that record, or at least a part of it, is samples, and it's interesting that they did this after Save Rock and Roll, which is such a guitar-oriented pop album. Yeah, that was a song I was very disappointed with.
I would say my pick for the most disappointing album of this year, just because I love him so much, was Prince. Prince put out the Hit and Run album, which was it's one of those things that he would have put out in the 90s to get out of his Warner Brothers contract, which is funny because now he's actually back in bed with Warner Brothers. But it was so strange. Like like two of the songs are remixes from the Artificial Age album, which I thought was good. And then the rest of it, it's like his trips into, like, he tries dubstep, he tries heavy-hitting club music. There's a song with Rita Ora on there that's terrible. There is one really, really good song on Hit and Run, which is apparently it's been like a bootleg single for like 15 years, 20 years, called 1,000 Hugs and Kisses. I really like that song. I think that's a really good song. But yeah, anytime Prince puts out an album, it's an event for me because Prince is a musical genius. But the fact that he totally phoned this one in with Hit and Run that really bummed me out. I was really sad about that. So that was a bummer because I was really looking forward to it. Win some, you lose some.
Yeah, for me, one album that really disappointed me was Ellie Goulding's Delirium. I'm a huge Ellie Goulding fan, and yeah, I mean, just did not like that album at all. Like, I mean, I did like some songs, but it just wasn't. It didn't match like what she did before Love Me Like You Do. Before that, because I don't even really like that song either. But yeah, I don't know. It just I guess her trying to go full on pop just did not mesh well with her vocals or what she tried to do with that album.
Jerry?
See, the worst song of the year I'm going to say is that Wiz Khalifa thing.
R.I.P. Paul Walker.
All respect to the dead, but I don't understand how that was number one for.
I don't either.
I was wrong. I forgot. Fucking Marvin Gaye is the worst song of this year.
Yeah!
Oh God!
Oh God!
Damn it!
Oh God!
And it's weird because that's the worst song I've heard Meghan Trainor do, and the best song I've heard Meghan Trainor do is also from this year. It's her duet with Jason Derulo, "Painkiller." So
I thought you were gonna say a duet with John Legend.
No, her duet with Jason Derulo is great, but yeah, I guess like if she does a duet with somebody, it'll either end up being just the worst or surprisingly good. But yeah, Marvin
Gaye, it's not a good or. It's a combination of two people that I feel shouldn't be as popular as they are now because they're both so bad. I hate Meghan Trainor and I hate Charlie Puth. And
that's why they're a perfect couple.
Yeah. I honestly thought when they kissed at the American Music Awards, I thought they would just a symbiosis would form and they would just become one person.
Yeah. The most mediocre person ever.
Interesting way for people to give a crap about the American Music Awards because when's the last time you cared about the American Music Awards?
Like the thing about Marvin Gaye, it's like the opposite of when Jay-Z and Kanye did Otis. It's like if you're gonna make a song titled after one of the greatest singers ever, you need to put some soul into it. And that song, not only is it soulless, it also basically makes Marvin Gaye into just a metaphor for sex. And it's like, he's so much more than that. He had so many layers and just, no.
My least favorite song of the year, and I've mentioned this a bunch of times, is New Americana by Halsey. I think, well, first off, she comes off as kind of an industry plant, and then she has just one of the worst choruses of the year. I can't believe it's stuck in my head because it's just so bad. It's "We are the new Americana, high on legal marijuana, raised on Biggie and Nirvana. We are the new Americana." That is a chorus to a hit song in 2015, and it is so bad. And the song itself, it sounds like Discount Lord, and
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if that was why she got big.
And it's shocking that a song this bad, this obvious, and that it feels so manufactured has become popular, especially on rock radio, when we have so many more interesting people in both alternative music, as nebulous as alternative music is, and in the pop world, that this, of all songs, has become like a top 20 alternative hit. Like, why not, more Love Towards Churches, or even Elle King, who had a #1 hit this year, and it's just like, really, this person? Why? Especially with the chorus that bad, and then with a vocal style that doesn't add anything to a chorus that bad. Yeah. I'm not a fan of Halsey.
I don't think anybody is.
Yeah, I actually listened to the song for the first time a couple hours ago, and because everyone on my Twitter feed's like, "OMG Halsey," and I'm like, okay, what the hell is Halsey? So I looked her up and I played the song, and I was just like, raised on Biggie and Nirvana, like, how old are those people? Because, like, I have to admit, I was like, what, 4 when they were big at the time? And I'm like, how old is Halsey? I was like trying to map this out in my head, and I'm like, this song is so stupid. I don't know why I'm putting this thought into it.
Oh man, it's not a good song. And then the other one is, interesting enough, it's "Stitches" by Shawn Mendes. It's also not a good song. I kind of forget how it goes here and there, and then when I hear it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I don't like that song.
I don't know why I like it though. Like I don't know why. I don't know why I sing it a lot. I sing it a lot, and I like it on the radio, but I don't know. I know it's a bad song. I know it's cheap, but I don't know. Or I at least it's catchy to me. I don't know.
Yeah, the song that's kind of in that book for me with the Stitches is "Geronimo" by Shepherd.
Oh, I hate that song. Sorry.
It is it's not a good song. But for some reason, whenever it's on the radio, I'm like, maybe. And then I'm like, it's not a good song, but it's like there's something that's keeping me coming back to that song. Like, and it's not even like interesting in its mediocrity. It's just like, what are these guys doing that kind of pitches my ear in a way that bands like Of Monsters and Men aren't, even though Shepherd is not a good band at all. Like, why is this a song that I keep revisiting and willingly playing? Why this song? Especially considering my dislike for what I broadly termed as campfire stomp clap folk bullshit. That's like episode number 2 of the podcast.
That's like the new white guy with acoustic guitar.
You know what I'm talking about, like stuff like the Lumineers and Monsters and stuff that came out.
Oh, I hate the Lumineers. Oh my god. Oh my lord, I hate that song.
Did I ever tell you that when I first heard Ho Hey, and over it was at a supermarket, and I thought that, wow, the Lonely Island got really big this year. This sounds like a lovely song. And then I found out it was a good song.
That's perfect. Can I also bring up maybe the blandest song that became a hit this year, which was Fight Song by Rachel, whatever her name is?
Platten. I thought that song was written for a commercial. I could not believe that was an actual like 3-minute pop song instead of like a 20-second thing in like a toothpaste commercial.
Yeah. I did hear it in a Chevy truck commercial, but no, I thought it was a Demi Lovato song. I'm like, oh wow, Demi Lovato went from a cool beat to this again. I'm like, oh wait, it's not Demi Lovato? Like really? Like who? I don't even know who this person is. Who is Rachel Platten? I don't know, but that song, it's so, and I feel bad hating on it because it's like an empowering song for women, but I'm just, so boring and so preachy. It's like, it belongs on Radio Disney. Oh my god.
Didn't Sarah Bareilles write this song better 3 years ago?
Yeah, and didn't Katy Perry rip it off the same year?
Yes. But yeah, this year I am happy more so that a lot better songs are on pop radio now as opposed to years in the past where it's just been just not fun. I mean, having Uptown Funk at number one for however long it was, I think it was like 12 weeks or however long it was, that was really good.
I love it.
I'm happy that that's the year-end number one for Billboard. It had to be. It was number one for weeks and weeks.
Right.
I'm happy that, and then the bad songs. I mean, as bad as See You Again and Marvin Gaye are, there were much worse, bigger hits.
Yes, there were.
2 years ago. I mean, it's not the worst thing to happen to pop music, even though I do wish Charlie Puth and Meghan Trainor would go away, but...
Yeah, I mean, like, last year, like, one of the worst number one hit songs was Shake It Off, but then, the next year, when Blank Space hit and Style hit number one, I thought those were really good songs.
I'm going to dispute you. I do like Shake
It Off.
I do like Shake It
Off. Hate Shake It Off. Oh, my God. I have danced to it. It's got a catchy beat. I remember when that song, she premiered that song because she was in a movie. She was in the movie version of The Giver. I don't know if anybody remembers that last year. But she was on, like, Kiss 108 promoting the movie. But then she's like, oh, by the way, I'm playing my new single for my new album. It's called Shake It Off. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll listen to it. And it premiered on the radio. And the second those horns came in, normally when a pop song has horns in it, I like it a lot more. But the second I heard those songs and those immature lyrics, I'm like, oh God, this is kind of awful. This is kind of bad. And then
nothing compared to Meghan Trainor.
Okay, yeah, Meghan Trainor's worse, but still, like, Shake It Off is so annoying.
I like it, and it's interesting to talk about Taylor Swift this year because she did have this huge year this year, and she put out her album last year.
Right.
And she's dominated musical conversation this year without putting out a new album or any new music.
She's kind of had like the best year and a half.
I mean, even into the fall when Apple Music debuted, we were still talking about 1989, how she was putting 1989 on Apple Music, and that got a lot of people to actually try Apple Music because 1989 was on there, as opposed to, some other stuff that Apple Music had. I mean, Apple Music has the exclusive rights to the Peter Gabriel discography, but is anyone bringing that up aside from me? Not really. All right, before we wrap it up, does anyone else have a music moment or any commentary on sales or streaming or anything else that they'd like to wrap this up with?
Well, I already brought up Adele's marketing strategy for 25 as one of the smartest and most successful, maybe the smartest and successful music strategy of the year. That was a genius move by her. And yeah, I mean, I guess the two smartest people in pop music are Drake and Adele for their strategies, for Drake being consistent with his output thanks to the Beats radio show, and the Future mixtape. That was very well timed and very close, but yeah, that was it for me.
Anyone else want to? Hopefully we all need to do. I think that one of the big things this year was that Spotify got some actual competition this year with Apple Music and Tidal, actually feeling like something that could actually that was actually something that would threaten Spotify. I mean, the fact that both of them are interesting and they have their positives and negatives towards them makes it interesting, but Tidal kind of did not have a good start. I thought that their press conference was very pretentious, and it felt like it was a bunch of millionaires and Arcade Fire. I don't know how much money that Arcade Fire has, but it felt like a bunch of millionaire pop stars complaining about being millionaire pop stars, and it kind of detracted from the fact that Tidal is a good service. It's no different from Spotify if you don't buy the hi-fi tier, and it was very interesting to see the backlash from Tidal when it probably would not have deserved that if they didn't have that press conference. And then Apple Music, 3-month free trial. I mean, I don't hear anyone talking about Apple Music aside from the Zane Lowe show anymore.
Yeah.
Even though I do like Apple Music, I subscribe to Apple Music now, and I like it. I like the convenience of having all my streams, my iTunes, but I don't know. I'm interested to see where streaming goes next. I'm really interested to see where Last.fm goes, because they're still hanging in there. And I want to see where music goes next in 2016 with streaming and with the vinyl thing not going away.
Yes.
And with CDs still sticking in it, and with radio still such a dominant part of how we listen to music.
Was this year when Groove Shark went away?
That was sad.
Yeah, that was, other than Rhapsody, that was the service I used. That was the streaming site I used most often. Because I use Rhapsody, and basically if something's on Rhapsody, it's on Spotify. So there's no reason for me to go to Spotify. And Groove Shark had a lot of rare stuff that wasn't on Rhapsody. And yeah, I listened to the Prince's The Black Album there last year. And it's like,
nice.
It's like, but I guess I'll have to pay for some stuff.
Yeah.
They keep making me. I'm a millennial.
Joey and Gabby, any final thoughts?
Well, I use both. I actually subscribe to both Spotify and Apple Music, and I have a problem canceling one of them. I can't decide because I think Spotify has better like curated playlists. Like they have a lot more, at least the ones I can find on there, and Apple doesn't. Apple, I kind of have to find. I have to know what I want to listen to, which is kind of frustrating sometimes.
The thing I like about Spotify more, even though I'm having problems with Spotify, the thing I like about Spotify the most is that it feels more social than Apple or Tidal. I mean, you can like recommend stuff to your friends on Spotify, but Apple you have to like dig to find which of your friends are using Apple. You can't like directly recommend a song. You can't to a friend on Apple Music, and it's hard to share the playlist on Apple Music. It's really like technical, and then no one I know uses it. So it's kind of like I have to keep my Spotify going and free like to recommend stuff, and then just have Apple myself. And I kind of wish that there was some way to like connect the two, or Apple had some sort of social aspect to it, or kept Ping around instead of trying and failing to make Ping like a Last.fm knockoff, which is why it kind of died. But I'm interested to see what happens.
Me, I torrent everything.
Boo!
Exposed.
Aside from exposing yourself as a thief, do you have any other things to say about this year in music?
That's most of my stance on all of that.
Are you prepared to make that like something that's actually out in public?
Yeah.
I mean, with Minneapolis police on your page.
That's another thing I get to circle back to. I was at a Black Lives Matter protest, and you actually get to see like that all right is a thing. So
yeah,
that's always really cool.
Yeah. That's probably like even though Pimp Butterfly isn't on the radio, it's permeated pop culture, and All Right has become this anthem, and it's really amazing to have that happen. All right, so I think that's where we're probably going to leave it. Thank you to the four of you for joining us on the first and hopefully not last music podcast for the young folks.
My pleasure.
I'm Ryan Gibbs. You can find me on Twitter at RyanGibbs89. I also run the TYF Twitter at TYFOfficial. Would you guys like to say your Twitter things?
I'm Joey Daniewicz. You can find me at Noise Critic on Twitter.
I'm Matt Rice, and you can find me nowhere.
Ghost. I am on Twitter at Mr. JW595. You can also find me on WordPress, J Winkler, JWINKLA. And you can also follow me on SoundCloud at JWINKLA.
Matt, aren't you on Tumblr?
Yeah, memorize your lines after the Slater-Kinney song. So, yeah, I rarely post anymore, though. I need to get back in that.
I'm on Twitter at Gabrielle Adele, GabrielleAdelle. I have to spell it because no one ever knows.
All right, so that marks the end of our first music podcast. I hope that this wasn't completely awkward to listen to for people that have this in their ears. All right, thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful day and a pleasant tomorrow.